Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So I think we can give it 2 more minutes for participants to come in. Thank you. Hello. Thank you for joining. So we will start in 8:02. So hello, everyone. Okay, maybe I can do some introduction first. So hi everyone, my name is Connie. I'm from AECC. Welcome to another episode of our world tour. Today is the workshop that we've been learning how to write a personal statement. We all know that personal statement is actually essential when you apply to UK university. So even though you are postgrad or undergrads, you need a good personal statement to actually support your qualification. So before that, I would like to make a small introduction about our series. So for this World Tour series, AECC Global have proudly collaborated with 37 institute partners, involving more than 90 universities across 4 countries, Australia, UK, US, and Canada, to help you to understand what you'll be studying in the future. So if you are confused about what to study or where to study, what to prepare, everything in the future, so whether you want to look for a credit transfer, pre-U, undergrads, or graduate pathway, this series is more definitely for you. And also, I know that we have participants from few different countries today, and I would like to know where you guys from. Could you please type in the chat box in the city that you are currently in, so that we know where you guys from? Yeah, I see Jeannie is from Klang. Hello. Benjamin is from Shah Alam. Hello. I hope today weather is okay for you guys, because today is quite hot. Hi, Mr. Daniel from UK. Thank you guys for the responses. So, okay, before we start the session, I'd like to make a small introduction about AECC. So AECC Global is a university placement agency that specializes in overseas education. So you actually can follow us in our social media channel. So you can get in touch with us for our latest events or anything, like any information. So you can actually scan the QR code here as well. So, or you can actually visit our website. The link will be in the chat box as well. And also, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Daniel from University of Plymouth. Later, Mr. Daniel will give us a talk about how to write a good personal statement. And also, if you guys have any question of the session, please feel free to drop them at our Q&A box. So we will get your doubts clear later at the end of the session. And also at the end of the session, there will be a short survey that only have 5 questions, and there will be a special prize for it. So please stay tuned until the end of the session. So without further ado, we can start our session. So I will pass this session to Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Connie, and nice to meet you all, or meet you anyway. My name is indeed Daniel. I work here at the University of Plymouth, here in sunny southwest England. Am I here to talk to you about the University of Plymouth today? No, I am not. I'm actually more a representative of Education UK or Universities UK, really, in that sense, because I'm trying to give you an idea about personal statement writing for applying to a UK university. Okay, that would include the University of Plymouth, but not just that. Now, there's a few things I must cover today, and they will be on this screen, so stay with me, hopefully for about 30 minutes. Hopefully you can stay with me that long, and there'll be a Q&A at the end. What are we going to cover? Well, we're actually going to cover slightly broader than just personal statement writing. Why? Well, if we just start straight away talking about personal statements, we've missed all the important stuff before it, which is the preparation. And if you don't prepare, you probably won't write a very good personal statement. I liked that Connie used the word writing a good personal statement. That's the key point here. We want to write a good one, not just anything, right? Good. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to just remind you, if you're not sure, why the UK might be specifically interesting for you to go to university. The why that is linked to this conversation is important too. Why is that linked to personal statements? There's something about that. You'll see it in a minute. Then we're going to get into that. What should you be thinking about, researching and doing before you actually write that personal statement, indeed, before you apply. Then we'll get into the application bit itself. It'll be a brief whirlwind introduction to the application system here in the UK. Don't worry, don't panic, it's not that hard. You'll be fine, stay with me. And then, of course, finally, we're going to get into the personal statement piece. And that will be the culmination, the goal, the focus towards the end of my talking bit. And after my talking bit, you get to ask me some stuff if you like. That's the Q&A. So let's go all the way back to the top and think about why you want to study in the UK. If you can see this map in my presentation, you might notice it's the map of the clouds of the world, right? Of course, that's Photoshop. But the UK is somewhere at the top in the middle there, except you can't see it very well. So here it is in much more clarity. This is the UK, except that Dublin on this map, please remember Dublin is in the Republic of Ireland, but everything else on this map is the UK. Plymouth is down there at the bottom on the left next to the sea. Why might you be interested in studying? Why might you want to study in the UK at university? Well, it's really good. In short, there's excellence well known in research and teaching. We know it and we can teach it, and that is definitely provable. We have very high completion rates. Students who come to international universities don't always complete that well, but when they come to the UK, they complete very well. You're much more likely to graduate and graduate on time at a British university than at other international university systems. The statistics prove it. There's a reason for that. There's many reasons, but one of them will come up in a minute. Employability is not just about getting that degree. It's about getting a job at the end of it so that your time and your money that you have invested can be recouped by getting a job, but also a good job. International repute, both of the education system of the UK, but also the study life and student life in the UK. Very well known and very much emulated around the world. There's that quality again, I think. The tutor system is well renowned in the UK. Yes, you'll be in a big lecture sometimes, usually, but also you'll have one-to-one opportunities for guidance with a tutor, and that's important, I feel. We have a strong blend of theory and practical. It's not just reading the books and writing the exams and getting a piece of paper. It's what you could do with it. Again, that links to employability. We're expecting our students to be able to do things and go on and be great ambassadors for our universities wherever they go around the world. There's quality assurance in the UK, pretty much unlike most other parts of the world. All the British universities are vetted and checked to make sure that what we say we offer, we actually do offer. So again, that's reassurance for you that your time and money are well spent in the UK because you know it's adequately checked and it's all real and above board. And finally, on this slide, selective entry. Yes, that's a good thing. Selective entry is a good thing? It sounds scary. Well, it might sound scary, but actually it's a good thing. It's what's connected to those high completion rates and that great employability. What we're doing with selective entry is making sure that a student who comes to the UK is the right one to come to the UK, to the university, maybe, but to the program of study in particular. And that point there, I put that circle around it because that really drives a lot of what I'm going to talk about from now. So let's start thinking about remembering that selective entry means that universities in the UK are really choosing who they want. They don't just let anybody in, they're choosing who they want. What should you do before you apply? Well, we're going to cover a few things. We're going to cover what to think about and what to research about, and there's going to be shapes. Yes, shapes. What kind of shapes? This shape and this shape. Why? You'll see, it's Wednesday. I like to put random things in presentations, but also this shape. This is obviously a speech bubble for the smallest and yet maybe biggest question of all time. Why? I'm telling you that you have to do lots of research. And you might say, but why? Why is it important to do so much research before applying? I haven't got time, Daniel. I'm so busy, Daniel. I've got all my studies to do, all my fun stuff to do. I don't have time for this. Well, you really do need to make time to do a really effective personal statement. That's where we're going. You need to do a strong research preparation beforehand. If you don't do it, this could happen. You could apply to a university and not be accepted. Remember, selective entry. We choose who we want. Or worse still, you could apply to a program at a university and get accepted, but not like it. And I think that is definitely worse. And you might spend 3 or more years doing that thing that you don't like, which would be silly and, of course, upsetting. So it's very important to get it right. But when we say selective entry, what does that mean? What are universities in the UK actually looking for? Okay, well, the answer we often use in admissions circles when we are assessing a student application is this phrase, a good fit. Oh, we think this student will be a good fit. What does that mean? Well, we mean a student who is well suited, in our opinion, to the program of study. Not the university, the program of study, both what the program is and how it is taught and assessed. And by well suited, we expect that they will succeed in that program and keep our high completion rates still high, but also that the student will enjoy the program and benefit from it too. And of course, that has to be key. So this is a really important thing to remember. It's the program of study that we're looking for primarily. And that may be different from other countries' university systems, where maybe you go for a 4-year or longer degree, and the first year or so, you don't have a major, you can just do a bit of anything. That's fine. I'm not saying that's a worse system, it's just a different system. But that suits you if you don't know what you want to do. But in the UK, especially in England, it's going to be a 3-year degree where year 1, semester 1, week 1, you're studying that major. So of course, that's why we care a lot about whether you are a good fit for that program, because that's what you're coming to do. Now, what to do? Well, please don't do what this photograph is doing. This is a University of Plymouth robot looking like it's feeding the fish. That's just an image. No fish was harmed or fed by a robot. So it was just a marketing image. What to do? Okay, some key things here, but I'm going to highlight some key points. Research your options, plural. Keep your options as open as you can at the start to help you have a wider range to compare. But your options, not your mum's, not your best friends, not your teachers, your options, what you want to do. Your mum, your best friend, your teacher, they're not going to write your exams. They're not going to sit in class for you or with you. It's you. So make sure it's what you really want to do. As I mentioned earlier, focus on degree program before university when you're applying to the UK, because that's the key thing. You'll be doing that from semester 1. Focus on degree content, not just the title. A media degree at University A might be very different to media degrees with the same title at University B, C, D, E. It could be multimedia, it could be web design, it could be animation, it could be film, it could be journalism. It could be very, very different. So if you just go by title, you could be rather upset if you got to the wrong place to do the wrong thing. And please start early. My least favorite question, I get asked a lot, my least favorite question is, hey Daniel, when is the deadline? I hate that question. I hulk out because when is the deadline implies how late can I leave it? That's not a good idea. So start early, as you are doing by attending this today, I hope. Okay, well, what about what not to do? Well, I suppose there's lots of things you could not do, but let's not go there. But at least let's say this, don't bury your head in the sand. It could be quite overwhelming, I get it. The good news is there's a world of information out there, it's called the internet. The bad news is there's a world of information out there on the internet and it could overload you. It can trip you up and you might want to bury your head in the sand. Please don't. Let's think about a few little ways, a few things to focus on today to get you started and avoid that situation. Okay, we're still prior to applying yet. We haven't got to the personal statement yet. Don't worry, we are getting there. I'm just trying to give you some ideas, things you might want to ask yourself, things to remember, things to do, so that when you get to the application, it'll make more sense and it'll be a lot less stressful. Hooray! So you might want to think about degree types or award types if you prefer. You might have heard of some of these, a BA, a BSc, a BEng. What do they mean and are they different? Well, they might be, but they might not be. So for example, a BA in business might be a bit different in content from a BSc in business. And maybe those are both offered at the same university or at different universities. So for example, a BSc in business might have a higher level of mathematics content, might have a higher entry requirement, especially related to maths as well. But it might not. So you have to go into the university's programs on their websites or their prospectus and have a look at the modules. Is there a lot of maths or not? And is that important to you, depending on how good you are at maths or how much you like it? Just examples. But similarly, let's look at BSc compared with BEng, and robotics is a good example. You might find a BSc robotics somewhere or a BEng robotics. Are they different? Not sure, but again, it might be related to maths. A BEng might have the higher maths component and the higher entry criteria compared with the BSc. Again, don't trip up on the detail, check it out. This is why we start early. But you also might want to think of other types of degree. Do you want a single degree, which is just one subject, one major, or do you want to combine them? And if you combine them, is it 50-50? Is it 75-25? Or what? I did a combined one. It was 75-75. True story. So I did 150%, so a degree and a half of modules. I liked it. It was good. No worries. But I didn't know that before I got into the program because I didn't do the research. So think about it. You might want to do a sandwich option or a placement option or an internship option. All those words mean the same thing. And that might add a year. 3 years in England might become 4 years, where one of those years is working. So you might want to look at that. Or a study abroad option, like I did, which also made it a year longer. It doesn't have to make it longer, but different institutions do it in different ways. Think about all this because that helps you work out what it is you're looking for, or at least what it is you're not looking for. But now I'm going to go on to styles. I've just been talking about degree types, the award title, what the content will be, and remember the content is very important because the title may mislead you, right? But it's not just about that. It's about how a program is delivered to you or assessed with you. So it's not just about what, it's about how. Here is a photograph, by the way, of a bin full of ping pong balls being exploded on our campus. Why? I don't know. Because we can? We did anyway. Whether we should have, I'm not sure. Right, one of those shapes. Lectures, seminars, tutorials, big, medium, small. These are probably the most famous types of university interaction you might have heard of. Big lectures, lots of students, medium seminars, a bit more interaction, and small tutorials with a lot of interaction. True. So this slide is an indication, a visualization of what might happen in your degree and how it is taught or indeed assessed with coursework or lab reports or a small test every week. I have a test every week in my program, and I had exams at the end of the year, but I didn't have exams at the end of the semester, so that can vary. You might have to give presentations in your program or go on field trips or do other kinds of practical projects or research projects. You probably will have in the UK a final project in your final year, otherwise maybe known as a dissertation, otherwise maybe known as a thesis, right? And then those internships I mentioned earlier, the study abroad I mentioned earlier, plus the all-important self-study to knit it all together. Now, this is just a random example of what your degree might look like at this program in biology at University A. But at University B, same program, but totally different assessment criteria or totally different structure of delivery of how they teach you. So which is important to you? If you're really good at a certain type of project or certain type of assessment, or really bad at one, that might affect which institution you choose. Another institution, institution C, might do it like this. So it really can vary, and it's important, again, to look into the universities in detail. Not every university in the UK, you'll be doing it for months, but the ones that you think are quite interesting as topic and content is to also look at how it's assessed, what type of delivery is there, and see if that is going to affect your choice. Because I liked exams, I really did like exams. I could study for 2 days, write in the exam, and then forget it. Perhaps not the greatest way of long-term learning, I admit, but that was me. So don't do like I do, but my point being, if you like exams, if they're good for you, that may not faze you. But if you think you're better or better off doing a more continuous assessment coursework approach, find a university that does that. By the way, this self-study is really important to understand. It really does knit everything together at university. One of the biggest differences between high school and university is the amount of self-study. Don't be scared by that, be enthused by that, because if you've chosen the right program that you like, you'll love that and it will really help you. Okay, I'm getting there, I promise. The personal statement is coming. A few more questions for you to think about now, and perhaps I could have started with these, but there's different ways of doing this. I think these are very important questions for you, and I hope you have asked them, but you might not. What subjects do I like? What study activities do I like? Really easy questions, duh, but have you really stopped with a pen and paper to sit and write a list? Similarly, or not, what subjects am I good at and what study activities am I good at? I love astrophysics and all the science connected to space. I love all the big numbers that when you watch a space documentary, they throw them, those crazy big numbers at you. I love it. So I like that subject. But I'm not very good at maths, and I'm even worse at physics. So there's a disconnect there. So my point is, oftentimes students like what they're good at, and they're good at what they like, but not always, so think about it. And finally here, what careers would I like? Some of you may already know exactly what you want to be, and that's great. But a lot of you, probably most of you, will not know, and that's also fine and great. It doesn't matter right now. But if you do know, then make sure you don't trip up again by choosing the wrong degree or choosing the wrong A-levels or STMP or whatever that might affect your possible career direction. Because of course, medicine for doctors, architecture for architects, engineering for engineers, these are quite well-developed paths, and make sure you know what those are if you do know what your career is. I had no idea, and I still don't. Then you might want to think about these things, such as NG requirements. I mentioned that earlier when talking about BEng and BSc. Is the maths NG requirement going to be different? Maybe. You might want to think about the location of the university. Finally, I'm starting to talk about the university a little bit now. Is it a city or a campus, or is it both, like at Plymouth? Or what are the facilities like? Do they have a particular club, like a surfing club or a diving club? What's the accommodation like? What does it all cost? That includes scholarship or cost of living or any of that. You might even want to think about the weather. All these things should be in your mind so that, the other shape can appear, the triangle. Why have I put a triangle here? Well, at the top of the triangle, when I started this presentation, we were talking about all these questions to ask yourself about what you're looking for, what kind of program you want to do. Well, the top of the triangle here represents all the degree programs that there are anywhere, or at least for now, anywhere in the UK. And at the bottom is the number 5. The number 5 is how many you can apply to. You can only apply to 5 UK university programs in any one year on the application system. So there's a lot to filter out and narrow down. And that's why I'm giving you all these questions, all this food for thought, so that you can start to think about what's important to you. And I would suggest that program, content, and how it's delivered is the first filter factor. That's the priority. That's what you're going to study. And then I would add entry criteria is probably really important to filter out ones that are unrealistic, not right for you. But after that, whether it's cost or location or clubs or whatever, you can filter as you wish. And that's how, and it takes a while, you narrow all that down. But Daniel, you've not really told me where to start. How do I actually start? You've said program and entry criteria is important, but where do I fill that top of that triangle? How do I get that information? Well, that comes into this next section, because actually how to apply is also where you can start. And it's here, ucas.com. If I only had a 10-second presentation, if I only had 10 seconds, I would say, just go to ucas.com. Now, that wouldn't be very thorough as a presentation now, would it? But it would give you good guidance, because on ucas.com, you can really unpick the options out there. You can get guidance on what to do and research and prepare to apply. And you can really see even videos and tutorials about all of that. And it's also where you apply. Now, you don't have to go to ucas.com and forget everyone and everything else. With AECC Global, we've got a great and very experienced team who are well connected to loads and loads and loads of British universities, and that can help you too, to really get the information you need in order to make the decision. So it doesn't have to be UCAS and no one else, but it should be UCAS because it's a very good website. It should assist you, and it's where you may well be doing your application. So this is that whirlwind introduction to UCAS that I mentioned. Do remember ucas.com, it's very important. Go and Google it sometime, not now, and see what you can learn about it. But here's a sort of timeline for an application cycle. And this is important, just so you understand what you should be doing about now or at any point in the cycle. Now it's researching, choosing your courses, where to apply. When I say courses, I mean programs, same thing. There are some key deadlines that you might see on the UCAS website. Remember, I hate the question, what is the deadline? You know I don't like it. But you do need to know it, because if you miss it, you're in trouble. It's an early deadline of, well, next week, if you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge, or if you're applying anywhere to dentistry, medicine, or veterinary science. But assuming you're not applying to those, then Happy New Year. The actual UCAS deadline for everything else and everywhere else is January 15th. But applying earlier will get you offers earlier. Once you get your offers, they'll either be conditional or unconditional. Many students worry about that or are confused by that. What does conditional mean? Well, usually conditional is given to you if you've not finished school yet. You haven't got your results yet. So we might say, we will give you a place on this program if you get ABC grade or whatever. And unconditional is usually if you've already finished school or you've already got your results. We're not waiting for anything. We know that we can accept you. We might reject you at that time, but if you've done your research properly to fill the triangle and filter down the triangle based on what will be a good fit for you, then of course, you're not likely to get rejected. You'll probably get all 5 places you apply to giving you an offer. Remember, you can only apply to 5. So at that point, we might do an interview as well, or some universities might. It's probably Zoom. Into the late spring, early summer, you've maybe got 5 offers, but you can only keep 2. That's because the other 3 need to go back into the pot for other students. That's fair. You can keep your first choice or firm accept the one you really want to do. And the second choice is your backup in case your grades don't get so high in your exams. And the rest go back into the pot. Then you get your results and then you come and see us. Now, if your timetable, your results are different, if you get your results earlier or later, don't worry, we can shift this. But this is an idea of the process with UCAS. You might have heard of 5, you might have heard of 2 and firm from a friend or an older sibling. You don't really know what it means. This is just an introduction today. There is no test, don't worry. It's just to give you a flavor of what happens when and hopefully why. And this is the main focus, the application itself. On UCAS, you've got to put your personal details. Please have a sensible email address, is my advice. Nothing too weird. I've seen a few. And your details of the schools you are attending or have attended. And of course, your 5 program or university choices. This could be 5 different universities with very similar program. That's normal. Or it might be 2 similar programs at one university and 3 more similar programs at 3 different universities, or something like that. But it should not be biology at one place, French at another place, physics at another place, dance at another place, and creative writing at the last place. Because I don't know how on earth you could write one application that will be read by all of these places and all of these programs, and it makes sense. How can that be a good fit for the program? That's why you're narrowing down and homing in on what you want to do before you apply, so that all 5 will be similarly and subjected or related, so that the application makes sense at all of these. On the form, you'll have to put your qualifications, those you have already done maybe, or any that you're still doing. So you write which exams, subjects you're taking and when you'll get them. And then finally, we get to the personal statement. Before I jump into that, don't forget you'll also need to have a reference from one of your teachers. So if you're applying to engineering, maybe your physics or math teacher would be a good person to ask for a reference, because that makes sense, it's relevant, yeah? I don't really want your French teacher writing it, because if I read a reference from your French teacher when you're applying for engineering, and I know you took physics, I'm thinking, why does your physics teacher not want to write you a reference? What's hiding there? It's not relevant, so make it relevant. Then, in an application, sometimes you might have the interview, as I mentioned, or if it's art or design, or if it's theatre or drama, you might have additional material to write or deliver or present. That won't be on the UCAS application. That'll be emailed to you or discussed with you after you submit the application. Ergo, apply early. Gives you more time to do that. Right, finally, personal statement. Let us go. The most important thing I can say about the personal statement is this bit, the end. No, but it is very important, so I pause for dramatic effect. Passion for the program really has to come out in your personal statement. Why? Well, I have read thousands of personal statements, but that was when I used to work in an American university system. I used to work for American university for about 8 years, and now I've been working in British university system here at the University of Plymouth for about 13 years. But for those 8 years, I read a lot of personal statements, and in these 13 years, I do read quite a lot, but it's not my decision anymore. I don't accept the students. The person who reads your personal statement in a British university probably also teaches and runs that program at that university. So they have a passion for that program. They want to know whether they want you in their class. And if there's no passion, no interest coming out of the personal statement, why would they know that you like it? But here comes some other points. Relevant studies, relevant extracurricular activities, relevant personal qualities, relevant career exploration, if you have it, such as shadowing, work experience, voluntary, etc. I keep saying relevant a lot, don't I? Well, again, there's a couple of reasons, but one is that I told you, the person who reads and decides on your application may well teach the program. So they probably don't care too much if you're captain of the ultimate Frisbee team. Do we want well-rounded, exciting, interesting students? Yes, but that's not really important for the subject that you're coming to study. It's more just to show what a great person you may be, and that's wonderful. But we want relevance. I'll tell you another reason why in a moment. But don't just list all these things you've done. I've seen that mistake happen in personal statements. People with passion think, I want to show how passionate I am about the subject. I've been so busy. So I've done this, I've done that, I read this, I studied that, I worked here, I volunteered there. Boom, 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 boom. The end. And we think, yeah, but did you connect in your mind, and can you show us that you really understood what you were doing and why you were doing it, and show how that develops you towards this study and this career? Where's the proof? So this is the point. You have to tell us what you learned and how that's helped you in your personal statement, so that it really proves that you're a good fit for this program you've applied to. And that's important, but it also highlights the importance of the word relevant. And that's because you only have 4,000 characters, not words, to write in your personal statement. And if you type 4,000 and you reach 4,000, you can't type any more in. The system stops you writing anymore. That's about 2 or 3 small paragraphs. It's not a lot to write. And actually, to get your passion and your proof and your explanation all in there, it's quite a challenge. That's why you're going to have to be concise. Hence, I kept saying relevant, 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 because otherwise you're wasting characters on non-relevant or irrelevant stuff. You haven't got the room. So be concise. Write it once, it'll be too long. And you'll go, it's 3 times too long. So write it once, nice and early. edit it down, take away the less relevant stuff, work out how to be efficient in what you say, unlike me, and then you'll get there. But take a break, give it a couple of days, come back with a fresh head, have a look at it again. Please spell check it. But don't spell check it just with the spell check function, because if you spell check that and it's the wrong thing, but still a word, then spell check might not pick it up. And I've read a few embarrassing ones in personal statements like that. Again, I won't give you examples, but imagine. A good way to get around that is to print it, yes, old-fashioned print it, and read it aloud word by word, but also get someone, preferably a native English speaker, to read it word by word back to you, because then it's more easy to spot any errors and you can see if it sounds right or not, and preferably a native English speaker to check it grammatically too, ideally. Finally, never copy another statement. It's obvious, but I do need to mention it because, you know, with the internet, you can get statements out there, they exist. The software will catch that. Okay, well, we've come a long way in 31 minutes almost. And just to get to this goal, really, and there's really the previous slide, which is more important, that passion and the proof, keeping it relevant is really important, because that's really your best chance. Be infused by this time. This is probably the best time of your life right now, where you've got the most choice ahead of you that you can control. You can work out what you wish to study and hopefully where you wish to study it. And also you can control what you say about you in relation to that to us universities. But you can only do that if you've really researched properly. Ask yourselves the right questions about what you should be thinking about, which things are interesting or not, right for you or not. Looking into the content of the programs, but also how they're taught and assessed, how easy is it to get in, and then think about whether it's a campus or whether there's a scholarship or whatever else is important. And you've really prepared further by asking questions to yourselves or to the institutions to really understand your medium list, which is still not 5, maybe 10 programs, to really narrow down what suits you down to your 5 application choices. And that means that when you do apply, as I said earlier, that one personal statement will have well, a lot riding on it, but actually it will be a lot easier for you to have written, because you'll be sure that all of them are a good fit, and you'll be sure that you can prove that to us too. And that's kind of the whole point. So to go back all the way to the beginning, we started today to talk about a personal statement, and I did hopefully get there eventually, hopefully soon enough for you. But I hope you also realize that it's almost the culmination of the whole process. And if you jump straight in at the personal statement, you're going in blind. And if you get a program that suits you, great, but that might just have been luck. So the more you prepare, the more you research and compare, the easier it'll be. And a lot of students get stressed by personal statements, but I really believe, and I've seen evidence of this, students who've done this, that if they do prepare and research well, it's actually quite an enjoyable process writing the personal statement, and it's not stressful either, and it succeeds. Okay, I'm going to stop talking in a minute. Hooray! I hear you shout. Before I do, I'll just leave up one brief slide about the University of Plymouth, not because I'm here to tell you about Plymouth today, but because you may be curious. But I'm not telling you lots about it because today's session is not about that. You'll do your research, and if we're on your list at the top of the triangle, or still on your list at the middle of the triangle, and if we're still on the list when you get to the 5 at the bottom, great. But if not, then, well, also great, because that means you've chosen what's right for you. But we're a big university. We offer most subjects across businesses and sciences and engineering and healthcare and humanities and arts. So we offer most things. We're not in London. We're far from London. Up to you whether that's good or bad. I know what I think. We're a big university, so we've got loads of great facilities and clubs and societies and la, 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 la. But that's not important because I've told you about program focus first. Okay, if you want to screen grab this or just be in touch with my fab colleagues at AECC Global, if you want to reach out to either myself or to my colleague Jeannie, who's also online today. She's based in our international office, but down a very long corridor all the way there in KL. So we work together, but she's nearer you than I am right now. You can always reach out to us or do our wonderful virtual tour. That's fun to look at the campus if you like. If not, it doesn't really matter. Today's session's been about personal statements. I hope you found it useful. I'll stop sharing now and see if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Hi, so I think that's a wonderful, because for me myself as UK graduate, I think it's very important that we actually know that before we put in application, because we know UCAS is quite tricky sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's actually good to know before students actually make up their decision, because you only get, the deadline is there. So otherwise you have to wait for another year, which is most challenging. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, UCAS is actually quite a good system in my opinion, but it's best serving you when you don't leave it till last minute as a student, or indeed as an agency assisting a student. It's best that you do all the research and preparation nice and early, so that the question or the concept or the stress of deadlines just do not enter your mind, because you've dealt with it in plenty of time, and you really do have plenty of time. The kind of things I'm telling you or suggesting that you might want to do, it's thought processes, it's a few lists to write of long lists of things you want to start with, and then a couple hours here or there over a few evenings will help you shape down your medium list, and then you might want to send a few emails to find out more. Then, a couple of weeks for all those emails to come back in those discussions, and then you're pretty much ready in theory. It doesn't have to be too taxing.
Yes, agree. Thank you for sharing. We have plenty of questions here,
Right.
so we can go through. So there's a student asked, is there any different writing personal statement for degree and master programs?
That's a good question. I don't believe so, in my opinion. I've read personal statements that for students writing for a bachelor program who are very, very mature as students. They've really thought it through, they've prepared well, and I think, well, if I read that for a master degree application, it would still be good. Sometimes a master applicant has more work experience, or maybe more life experience, maybe, depending on their life history. So maybe they've got a bit more detail to put in. A master application is not necessarily going to be done in the same format, though, so it might not have a character limit of 4,000. However, even if there is no character limit on your personal statement, I still advise 2 or 3 paragraphs as a maximum anyway. Why? Because any longer, you're going to start to put less relevant stuff in, and any longer, the poor person reading it, and another one, and another one, and another one, it just starts to become noise. If you are concise and you are relevant, you're showing your passion, but in relevant experiences, that's all we really need to see. So the short answer is yes, I think they should be quite similar, really.
Yes. I think you'll answer the next question as well, because the next question is, does it matter on the words counts in terms of writing a personal statement?
Does it matter on the word count in terms of, does it matter? As I've said, if it's UCAS, it does, because if you go over 4,000 characters, the system won't let you type anymore, even if you're halfway through a word. So that's why you do it offline first and count the characters and edit it. If you're doing UCAS and you do it a lot under 4,000, if you manage to do it in 2,000, okay, but I think that might be a challenge to do it well. So I think you should be able to fill it with relevant stuff and get close to the 4,000 maybe. If it's for PG, like I said, word count is important if it's too many. I've worked for institutions in other countries, as I said, where there was no limit. And I honestly have been given 6 or 7 pages long personal statements. You can imagine that can't be too relevant. I feel I know this person very well and intimately, like my best friend. That doesn't really mean it helps me or them that much. Concise is key, please.
Thank you. Then the next question will be, does all university require a personal statement, even diploma?
I can't actually speak on behalf of all universities, but I can say, I think it's fair to say that personal statement is important for 2 reasons. It's important for most institutions to decide whether we think the student has thought about it and really researched and understand what our program is, and are they going to be that good fit? So it's important in that sense. But also the second reason is I think it's actually important for the student. The writing of the personal statement, and indeed all the preparation before that, is indeed homing your mind in on what you do or don't want to do. And that process is really helpful to make sure that you are making the right call and you're choosing the right thing for you. So I think it's important in that sense. Of course, certain very, very competitive institutions or competitive programs, they may have other things that they pay a lot more attention to. The obvious example would be medicine. So at Plymouth, we don't even promote a medicine program because it's heavily, heavily oversubscribed with applications. But personal statement, I'm not saying it's not important, but the UCAT is the primary concern as a filter factor for us. So how the students are doing in the aptitude test for medicine. So yeah, but those are kind of the exceptions, really. I think the majority, from my experience of other institutions I've traveled with and worked with around the world over the years, will indeed put a lot of attention and importance on the personal statement. And we've even done joint workshops on personal statements together in schools we visited around the world back when we used to get on planes. So yeah, I think it's important. I would say that.
Thank you, thank you. So the next question would be, do I need 5 different personal statements from 5 different university applications?
Good question. The answer is no. You need one personal statement which is put into UCAS, and that personal statement is automatically sent via UCAS to all 5 institutions that you have applied to. So don't make the mistake, as we occasionally see, where one student has written a personal statement and mentioned a university's name. Because then that university might be happy, but they might think, oops, epic fail. But all the others are definitely going to say, oh, well, you're clearly not that prepared and you're clearly not that motivated to want to come and study with us. I don't think it matters too much, if I'm honest, but I want to say, remember, that's why we're choosing 5 programs that are related to each other when you apply, so that your one essay will make sense. You're expected to write only one personal statement. I think that's a good thing. I know other systems where you have to apply direct to each institution and write another personal statement. Sure, you can edit it and amend it, but you still have to do that. UCAS, no. It's one, it's efficient, and if you've done the research, it'll make sense. It'll be fine.
Yeah, thank you. So next one would be, must I write a separate personal statement if I'm applying for 3 different courses? For example, Bachelor of Law, Bachelor of Commerce, or Bachelor of Communication?
That's a slightly tricky one for me to answer without not really knowing the student in question here, because on the one hand, I want to say, of course, if you're applying to the UK, you should have some idea what you're going to do, because your UCAS application will be one goes to all, right? So if you've got 3 very separate things, like I said in my presentation, if you do biology here, French there, how's it going to work? How's the personal statement going to work? You're going to write one. So part of me wants to say, try to work out, if you can, and narrow down before you apply what it is you're applying for, so that then your personal statement will work. Or at least in the examples just given there, they're not totally different subjects. So you might find a personal statement with common ground or common experiences around law and commerce and culture, or you might find a common ground in a personal statement that works there. But I'm always a bit nervous there, because I always think the student might not know what it is they want to study, and that needs to be addressed, because you might end up getting accepted into one of them and thinking, great, I'll go there because they've accepted me, but it might not actually be one of the ones you really wanted. So that needs to be unpicked a bit more.
Yeah, okay. So the next one would be, what if I'm only good academically and I don't have any good extracurricular record? Will I lose my chance?
Good question. No, I want to reassure. I want to reassure students that, like I said, yes, we might want a wonderfully all-rounded, perfectly experienced student, but that's not the reality of the world, and it would be very boring if we had all the same type of people like robots in our classes. We expect people from all types of background and all experiences and everything in our class. Please, that's vibrant. That's what we want. So in my workshop or my presentation, I wanted to say, if you have relevant experience, include it. But if most of your experience is related to academic, that's okay. You have what you have. Don't make stuff up. Don't put things in there that you didn't do. But in that scenario, if you're focusing on the academic, try to give us a couple of relevant examples, such as relevant subjects or relevant projects or relevant could even be a club or society, but you may say, well, that's extracurricular and I don't do that. But even if it's just academic, there will be relevant subjects and projects you have done, I am sure, that you can talk about what you did in those projects, why you liked them. And if you've researched the universities you're applying to, you'll already have chosen ones, I hope, that teach subjects that you're interested in. So you probably can make some good connections of related things you've done and to the things that we're teaching. Focus on that and don't worry what you haven't got. In some super competitive scenarios, again, like your medicines or your dentistries or things like that, they might have queries on that, but to be honest, they need academic ability above all else. So don't worry, it's okay.
Yeah. So the next question is, the student asks, what if I have missed the deadline for UCAS?
Okay, if you have missed the deadline for UCAS, well, you can't have for next September because it hasn't happened yet. But if you are going to miss the deadline, there's a thing called UCAS Extra where you can pick up programs available. So it's not game over. The door does not slam shut in January, and some institutions will take direct applications through agencies anyway. So there are other avenues to pursue. Again, I don't wish to stress anybody. But at the same time, I think deadlines have an importance. You know, I don't like the question, what is the deadline? I've said that 3 times. But I think they have an importance because they focus the mind and they get you started on the research and preparation and application process earlier. Remember, the sooner you apply, the sooner you'll know which of the 5 places have accepted you. And then more time you have to decide between those to find out which of the 5 will be kept as your 2 and which of the 2 is most likely to be the one that you'll go to. So yes, there's UCAS Extra, and if you go to ucas.com, you can figure all that out, or you can speak to AECC Global after the 15th of January and see what your options are. But even then, I would say, don't leave it until May, June. Those applications are always a flurry and a fluster and a panic, and it often involves stress and late arrivals, which nobody wants. So nice and early is definitely the mantra.
Thank you. So a student asks, can I only apply for 2 or 3 universities, or must I apply 5 uni?
Good question. You can only apply to 2 or 3. You can only apply to 1 if you like, but I think that's a little bit of a risk because all your eggs are in one basket. 5 is the maximum, 0 or 1 is the minimum.
Thank you. So another one is, what is the ideal number of references from my teacher needed for the application?
From my experience, it's 1, but it's possible there might be programs which require 2. Certainly in master degrees, sometimes they request 2 references. 1 may be academic, 1 may be professional, for example. But that could be case by case. But on the UCAS application, it's pretty straightforward. The teacher puts their reference into the system as well.
Yeah. Thank you. So another one, do you check for plagiarism?
Yes, we do. As I mentioned in the presentation, I'm not sure if the connection is good today, so apologies if not. But the software in UCAS will highlight copied personal statement text. Yeah, so don't do it, because if it's caught, you'll actually be excluded from all 5 of the choices. Yeah, so that's kind of game over. It's a needless thing to worry about, because you just don't need to do it. How can a personal statement be yours if someone else wrote it? How can it prove you're a good fit if it's not you? So like I said, if you enjoy and really get into choosing programs and choosing universities with those programs, you'll enjoy that. The personal statement, the only difficulty might be to edit it down. That's a challenge, but it's not hard. You'll be okay. Start early, you'll be fine. No need to plagiarize.
So another one is, have work experience is better, right? If I have good career experience, but my result is not that great, will it affect my application?
Well, I would, to quote Loki, I consider experience. And I think things you do and succeed in, but things that don't quite work out for you, if it's academic, but then you can rebound from, is good experience too. So we have seen applications from and accepted applications from students whose grades might not have been exactly where they wanted them to be, but their work experience or what else they have done since that to kind of improve and get better and show them to be a good fit despite the setback, that can work just fine. You know what, sometimes experience is a really good teacher, and if you've had a setback and you come back stronger, that's a huge motivator, and that can really drive greater success in future. So of course we want to know that a student can succeed, and if a student had failed a lot of things, that's a big question for us to unpick to make sure that we think they are a good fit, and if we do accept them, they're going to be okay to start and finish their degree and not waste their time and money too. So that's important, but we do look at the whole piece. Of course, we should. That's what we want. We want to know the full story.
Thank you. So another student like to know, I'm interested in marine related sciences, but in my high school, there's no relevant teacher, subject, or even curriculum. Any advice for this?
Yeah, sure. Again, I don't know the full detail here, so I have to be a little bit general. But this is why a lot of universities offer foundation or pathway programs. And at University of Plymouth, just as an example, we also do. And we have a lot of marine related subjects because we're by the sea and we're really good at those. But we are also aware that sometimes in certain school systems or certain schools, you might not have been able to do biology or chemistry or the kind of things that we would want prior to coming to us. So in that scenario, I would say there's probably two main choices for that student: either to go to a college or a school over there where they are and get those kind of subjects done at A-level or IB or something, or to go to an institution in the UK already that has such a pathway and do it there. So if that student were interested in us, they would come to us for our pathway foundation for about 2 semesters, so 1 academic year, and they would get the biology and the chemistry and the study skills that were missing under their belt, and then come on to the degree the following year. Sure, it takes longer, but if you need it, you need it.
Yeah. So another question is there any advice that you can give for finding our own interest of study?
Well, yeah, kind of the stuff I was saying way back beyond in all those slides before I start showing you timelines and shapes. I was really trying to say, ask the really important basic stuff. What do I like? What am I good at? Ask your mum and your best friend to write the same list for you. What do they think you like? What do they think you're good at? Start there. Or start at the other end, completely the other end, and just look at what careers exist that you might think sound interesting and work backwards and say, okay, I think being an architect sounds cool because I like buildings and I like to make things and do things, and well, let's work backwards. What do I need to study in order to be an architect? You can do that too, but nothing. The modern world, I think, is full of information, but not all of it is useful. We're all information overload. I think nothing is a substitute for just a bit of calm, a bit of reflection, a bit of what is it I really like? Of all the studies I've done, which, if any, were great for me or fun? Start there. You've got to start somewhere. Start with yourself.
Yeah, actually, we AECC have a free career profile test for students. So you can actually through the test that you will know like what kind of job suits your personality or your preference. You can actually contact us to get your free career profile test to know yourself more, so that you will know like what kind of degree you're actually looking for, which is very good for one of the like decision making process.
I think that's really useful, Connie. Thank you for that. When I first heard of aptitude tests way back when I was in your shoes looking for programs of university back in the last century, they weren't very good in my opinion and my experience, but they've gotten a lot better now. Do they dictate exactly what you should do? I hope not, but take that information on board. It helps give you food for thought as to whether you think that's right, whether you agree with it or not, but it's a good thing to try, especially if you're not sure or you just don't know where to start. So I think that's a very good suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And another one is, what are the things I must 200% avoid writing in my personal statement? The super no thing.
Wow, that's a great question. Just because I'm not sure how to answer it. Well, obvious things. I wouldn't get political. I wouldn't say anything that's outrageous or rude, but I'm sure you wouldn't, because how could you show passion in a personal statement if you're being very negative about anything? I don't really think there's anything particularly to avoid apart from the obvious common sense things that you wouldn't swear or blaspheme or I don't know. I'm just thinking about just try to show your passion for the things you've done and studied, connecting them to what you're aiming to study at university. If you stay within that framework, I don't really see how you can go wrong. So it's an interesting question. You've kind of stumped me there. I'm not sure how to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Another one is, hi, sir. If I'm currently studying in a science field, but I'm more interested in art-related courses, what are my chances of getting my desired course?
Great question. Again, depends on the detail of their Fujinhao, but I would say, well, it depends what kind of design. If it were architecture, there's quite a big crossover between architecture and engineering. Some architecture programs are more sciencey and some are more artsy. So you might want to think about that. But if you truly want to go from science across the way into arts, then we'd have to look at your education background and see, have you still got enough related to arts to get you into a particular art or design degree wherever you're going to go. And if you didn't, because you didn't take art or design at all, then I would suggest, don't worry, if you know you want to do it, better find that out now rather than in 3 or 4 years' time, because you're not too late and you've got less to undo and less to redo, but you might end up having to add on a year like a foundation, where, for example, at Plymouth, you could do a design and architecture or design related foundation for 1 year and then go into the degree that you do want. So the worst case scenario probably is that you have to add a year, but in England, that's not much because in some countries it's a 4-year degree anyway, but in England it's 3. So if you do the 1 + 3, that's still only 4, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. I think this is the last question. So the student asks, how important are IGCSE grades in undergrad application? What if you have average IGCSE result, but you perform better on A levels?
Super question. I do meet this thing quite often. Of course, it's all important, but admittedly, if you've done well or you've done better at the higher and more recent qualification, the A levels, then that's better news if you didn't do so well in GCSE compared with the opposite, right? So I think it's okay. And I think, okay, there are some programs, the super competitive ones, where they might want you to have A grades in all your IGCSEs and A grades in all your A levels because it's that type of program or that type of institution. But for the vast majority, if your A levels are looking good, we'll care a lot less about the IGCSEs, with the exception maybe of the English and math, which probably need to be a C minimum in both cases at many universities. That's a little bit too much detail, case by case that. But in short, A levels would be more important, so don't panic too much.
Yeah, I think that's our last question. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. I think writing a personal statement also will give you to know whether you really like that course. So it's when you write it, if you can write about your passion about the course, maybe you're making a right choice. But if you don't know anything to write, maybe you can reconsider about your choices as well. So I think a personal statement is actually quite important when you do your decision making. So thank you, Mr. Daniel, for sharing to us how to write a good personal statement and also how to put in application, how to find your passion. It's really helpful, informative. So yeah.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks. I've seen a couple of quick questions for me. And can I resubmit a personal statement if I realize there's mistakes? Shame you only realized it before you submitted, but if you did, then just reach out to the institutions and ask if they want you to do anything else, but they probably won't unless it was major. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Another person said pathway foundations and that kind of thing. Will you need a personal statement for the foundation? It depends by the institution. Some of them will ask for it, some of them will not. That's case by case. And then will we share the presentation afterwards? No, I don't actually. I have to keep all this proprietary. I can't even say it. I don't, but if there's any particular questions afterwards, then students can reach out to me. I think this is being recorded anyway, so you're covered.
Yeah, maybe later you can actually contact your counselor or we will upload to our YouTube channel. So you can follow our YouTube channel. So thank you again, Mr. Daniel. So before we end the session, I would like to share something also quite exciting. So let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Yeah, thank you. So I bet a lot of people actually heard about PTE. So PTE is actually an English test. So we know that English requirement is very important when you go like put in applications. This is one of your requirement for getting in the university when you are postgrad, foundations, or undergrad. So actually, what is the PTE? PTE is actually another English test named Pearson. So it's more fair. Reason being said that because it's the only computer based, because it's powered by AI, and also it's very fast. Like most result you can get is within 2 days, and like I say, because it's powered by AI, so it's more secure. So we'll be in a very secure environment with multiple applications, so that is more secure compared. And also most of the university around the world actually recognize PTE. Like 99% of university in UK actually recognize this, even visa or scholarship. So it's actually another good choice for you. And so you can actually download the app to get the free test samples, or you can actually use our code so you can get a 10% discount. So, and that is a very exciting news for our Indonesia student. So if let's say you applied to in a UK university with AECC in January 2022, you can actually get a cashback of rupiah 6 million. So you can, for more information, you can actually contact our Indonesia office. Contact will be end of the session. So the next one will be our Thailand student. So a Thai student that applied university through AECC Global Thailand, you can get a 2,000 Thai baht rebate. Same things, you want to know more about it, you can contact our Thailand office. So this is for Malaysian and Singapore student. So like I said, there will be a survey at the end of our session. So you can stand a chance to actually win a Sing dollar $30 for the credit, and for Malaysian will be 80 ringgit. So the next one. So this is actually our contact of the our Southeast Asia office. And you can find us in our Instagram or YouTube. You can follow us on our Facebook and Instagram. Our next session is actually about the study in US and Canada. It's by Short Life and Navitas. It's same times that next Wednesday. You can actually scan the QR code on the screen that you can register for the event, or you can actually reach out to us. Thank you so much for coming today, and thank you so much, Mr. Daniel, for giving such an informative session.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone for attending, and thanks to Connie and Ku and everyone at AECC Global for letting me on board today. I enjoyed it. Next time I'll see you, hopefully we'll be in person, you never know. But students, wherever you are, whatever you want to do, make it yours, enjoy the process, and good luck with your studies.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels, and thank you for joining us. So I hope you have a lovely evening and have a lovely afternoon, Mr. Daniel. Thank you, take care, bye-bye.